You said they're ready?
Yes, for roll call. They had this spreadsheet.
Good
Oh, just the
afternoon,
name.
evening, and welcome to the special meeting of the Board of Education for Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. This meeting is now called to order. Mrs. Fox, may we have a roll call?
Yes. Donald Walker,
Present.
Claudia Heinrich,
Present.
Cheryl Blogg,
Here.
Angie Smith,
Here.
Terry Weems,
Here.
and myself, Maple Fox, Secretary.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Yes.
We'll now rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Mr. Walker?
I move that the Board of Education approve the August 13th, 2024 special meeting agenda as presented.
Support. Motion to approve the agenda made by Mr. Walker, supported by Ms. Heinrich. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion to approve the agenda is approved. And now we will have announcements. Very good evening again. This meeting has been called specifically to address two matters: the vacancy for the board seat and the superintendent vacancy. We can now move into discussion on both of those topics. I'd like to start with the board trustee. As you all know, the Board of Education announced the resignation of Trustee Zach Rich from the Board of Education effective July 24th, 2024. Mr. Rich stepped down just shy of finishing his term due to the fact that his residency no longer qualifies him as a school elector. He wishes to share his gratitude to the community and thanks friends and family for support over the years. The Board of Education thanks Zach Rich for his service to the community and wishes him the best. The Board of Education has 30 days to appoint an individual to fill Trustee Rich's position. Neither the revised school code, nor the election code dictates the process used by a board in appointing a new member. The decision on who to appoint to the board rests with this board. The vacancy is filled by the majority vote of the remaining members. The appointed person will have the same rights, roles, and responsibilities as any other member who has been put into office by voters. There are a number of ways the board could fill the vacancy and has done a variety of these in the past. The most common way is to cast a wide net, announce the vacancy, allow people to apply, vet the candidates, and potentially interview. I'm very familiar with this process. It's how I was appointed in 2015. The board then interviewed 22 candidates. The board went through a pretty detailed process, and this was likely because the appointee, who happened to be me, was going to serve for over a year until the next decision or the next election. Given where we are in terms of the amount of time to serve, which is about 2 to 3 months, and with a number of other very important matters on our plate, including superintendent transition and selection, community engagement forums, and policy matters, I don't think it makes sense to cast a wide net or schedule multiple days of interviews to select someone who may only serve for a couple of months. Another option is to restrict the candidate pool to only those community members who are on the ballot. These folks theoretically have already demonstrated a desire to serve, and if elected, could serve for more than a few months, so that the time expended on interviews and the onboarding process could be an investment. In considering that option, however, there's still the fact that there's a large amount of time needed in order to vet a candidate, and the goal here is to appoint a person who has a deep commitment to public education and to all children, and rather than benefiting from bolstering an agenda or an image or status. So because we are so close to an election, appointing from this pool is not desirable. I reached out to each of the candidates who are running for election and made them aware of that thought process. A third option is to simply identify and appoint without interview. This was done in 2018 and in 2020 when Dr. Blau and Mrs. Fox were appointed. You were brought in early to fill seats vacated by members who left during the pandemic. After careful consideration, the board has decided that the process to fill the vacancy will not involve interviews, but rather a direct appointment. In seeking someone who could be appointed, the board was interested in someone within the community who already understood public service, in particular, former board members, especially those who have already been certified, understand the distinction between governing a district and running it, and understand the time commitment. They also already understand our policies, budget, finance, and history. This saves us time in interviewing and also on the onboarding process. The board considered a number of former school board members and elected officials with a great track record and reputation. Some of those included Howard Wallach, Jessica Cummings, Sheila Clay, David Turner, Christine Gregg, and Karen Bolson. Some were excluded because they no longer meet the residency requirement. Others were honored but could not commit to the time and would have to miss several meetings. In the end, Mr. David Turner is being brought forward this evening for consideration as the ideal candidate. You have Dr. Turner's resume in front of you, and at this time I'd like to determine whether anyone has any questions or would like to discuss this matter further before we go into the next discussion item. Mrs. Smith.
I think that Mr. Turner, well, Dr. Turner would be a great fit. He has not been off the board that long. Former president, was a great mentor and will help us go further in the process on the things that we need to do to move this board forward. And it's just only for 3 months. And I think that would be the most perfect thing for us to do. And I would be honored to serve with him again.
Any further discussion on that matter? Seeing none, I will move to the next discussion topic, which is the superintendent. That is the next matter of business. We need to act on identifying an interim superintendent. The board has previously communicated that we would be discussing appointing Dr. Kelly Coffin, who is currently our acting superintendent. The board emphasized the need for stability, an interest in collecting community feedback, and a desire to honor current goals and continue the positive momentum and good work being conducted today. Dr. Coffin provides the stability desired in the short term, while the board conducts more extensive feedback in determining a permanent solution. Because this decision impacts the broader school community, I sought feedback from a variety of stakeholder groups, most notably each of our union partners. Both myself and fellow colleagues have heard from many community members, teachers, parapros, support staff, central office staff, bus drivers, and administrators, and the wider community, and the feedback is very positive. There's a desire for stability and also for the board to take its time and not rush. The action taken today will be to identify an interim candidate who will serve until a permanent solution has been identified. We do not have a firm time frame, as I said, as the board has no intention of rushing. However, we do plan to collect feedback over the next few months. The board could act this year or later. Upon receiving feedback, the Superintendent Succession Planning Committee will meet again to determine the process for filling the permanent vacancy. Again, the board is not interested in rushing this process and will take the time to ensure our process yields the best results. In the meantime, the board is confident in leadership across the district and looks forward to the opportunities for talent within the district to learn and grow. Are there any questions or discussion related to the superintendent interim selection process? Mrs. Smith.
I'm glad that you cleared that up, President Weems. I received a lot of phone calls, not only today, but throughout the week and the weekend with some confusion. We have stated time and time again that we are not rushing this process. Dr. Coffin would be a phenomenal fit for this position because she's already been in the role of helping to move this district forward and moving the needle a little bit. And so I think that it would be in the best interest that we let Dr. Coffin serve in this position until we find the right person, or if maybe Dr. Coffin will be the right person to take this position. And, but I think that it would be in the best interest that we have her in as our interim. And then when we're ready to move forward, if Dr. Coffin is still interested, we will look into her being our permanent superintendent.
Ms. Fox.
Yes, what would be the time item for the time for the interim superintendent? Do we have a 6 months, 3 months? What are we?
We do not. So what we're going to do is collect feedback over the course of the next few months. That will help us determine whether we need to collect more feedback or if we're confident based off of the feedback that we've been given. So we don't have a firm timeline at the moment because we want to give ourselves the time to collect as much feedback as we think we need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Walker.
Just to amplify that, I might want to lift up the fact that we were planning to use our communications and community engagement committee to assist in gathering that feedback specifically from the community as well. And so that is a part of why it's going to take a little bit more time. And again, that's in line with what the community has asked and demanded, and that is that we not rush.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Heinrich.
And just actually the timeline, I'm just thinking back when we did the superintendent search in the past, it takes 3 to 4 months as far as a superintendent search. If we were going to do that timeline and, just looking at the time that the vacancy occurs, I think it's fortunate that we have talent within the district, that we're confident in providing the stability. That is one of the criterias that we want for a superintendent as we do this research. And so with everything going on, it just seems like a win-win situation to not rush and do a good job.
Thank you all for that discussion. Seeing no further discussion, we will now move into public comment. Anyone who wishes to make public comment, I'd ask that you fill out a comment card and bring it up and put it next to there should be a dish next to Ms. Mayberry. During public comment, members of the community are welcome to address the board. Each community member will have 3 minutes to speak. A timer is on the screen, I believe, and will display the minute countdown so that you can contain your comments to within that time allowed. Please address your comments to the board. If your comment is related to a student or staff member, please use caution in stating names of individuals where protection of privacy would be appropriate. The board will respectfully listen to comments, but generally the board does not respond to public comment. In some cases, it might be appropriate for someone to follow up with you to address concerns. At this time, is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Going 3 times, is there any public comment? Seeing no public comment, the public comment period is now closed, and we will move to action items. Is there a motion to appoint a board trustee? Mrs. Smith?
It'll be an honor to ask for Dr. David Turner. So I move that the Board of Education approve the appointment of our new board member, Mr. Dr. David Turner.
Support.
There's a motion on the table to appoint Dr. David Turner as our new board member, supported by Mr. Walker. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call vote? Mrs. Fox?
Yes. Donald Walker,
Yes.
Claudia Heinrich,
Yes.
Cheryl Blogg,
Yes.
Angie Smith,
Yes.
President Terry Weem,
Yes.
and myself, Mabel Fox.
Motion passes. Dr. David Turner is our new board trustee. Congratulations to him. I will give him a call after this meeting. The next action item is related to the appointment of an interim superintendent. Mr. Walker.
I move that the Board of Education approve the appointment of our interim superintendent, Dr. Kelly Coffin.
Support.
Motion made by Mr. Walker to appoint Dr. Kelly Coffin as our interim superintendent, supported by Mrs. Angie Smith. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, may we have a roll call vote? Mrs. Fox?
Yes. Donald Walker,
I will receive that doctorate. But
Claudia
yes.
Heinrich, Cheryl Blogg, Angie Smith,
Yes.
Terry Weem,
Yes.
and myself, Mabel Fox.
Did you call me?
Yes.
Claudia Heinrich.
Oh, yes, okay.
I'm sorry.
I didn't hear it.
No problem. I think we have everyone accounted for. All yeses, that motion passes. And congratulations, Dr. Coffin. You are our new... All right, congratulations to both Dr. Turner and Dr. Coffin. If there are no further comments, this meeting is now adjourned.
So, interim doctor at this point?
You are interim doctor, yeah.
Thank you for bestowing that title on me. I'm going to receive
I
it.
don't know where that went. That just came right off.
I ain't even mad.
Maybe because you were looking at me. I don't know.
By all means.
You gotta help me. You just gotta help me. This is fine.
It's totally fine.